We all know that Facebook has been the most popular social media platform in the entire world over the last decade. And Google has been their only real competitors with YouTube. And anyone else who had a shot at competing with them was simply bought up because Facebook has made hundreds of billions of dollars and can afford to do so. But how exactly? I'm going to get into that and why things have changed drastically. Recently, the world has been made more aware of the fact that when a business offers a product or service that they claim to be free, then there's usually more to the story, and they're making money in a less obvious way. Otherwise, why would they be in business? The Facebook business model is advertising, and this is how they make 98% of their revenue. And they get paid to place ads to target audiences based on profiles and activities on the application using what's called their audience network. This means you should think of them more as a massive data farm that offers a service for free to target the real products of the system, being the users that use its application. They're often unaware of the fact that their activities are being recorded and sold to the highest bidder. On the surface, this doesn't seem too bad, as a typical business operates and profits through its customers, but in this case, the relationship was a bit more obscure. And it wasn't until recently that the public was made aware of the extent and scale with which Facebook was tracking the activity of its users. Making a service that to the customer is free, but comes with their data being sold and used for advertising, is fair. But the problem lies when the company is not being transparent about every aspect of their business, especially when it directly relates to the privacy of its users. Since this discovery, Facebook has been in the spotlight of controversy while having over 2 billion users, and while having started as an app for college students made by college students. But now it's become known as the social media app for the older generation, and this is just the start of their problems. Facebook's business model and their parent company, Meta's stock price, have taken a huge hit with the recent changes in privacy features that came out in iOS 14 in 2021, with a pop-up option to choose whether or not to allow or disable apps to track activity across any app that is requesting it. The pop-up explicitly states that clicking allow will let companies track activity across different applications and use that data to better target ads on their platform or just to sell it. With Apple having nearly a 50% market share of smartphones in the United States, it has been estimated that this privacy feature alone could cost Meta $10 billion in 2022. Since most people are likely to value their privacy, especially when given the option, they're going to click Ask App Not to Track. And this is going to mean Facebook is more limited to knowing about their users, just what they do within their app. This is greatly hurting Meta's revenue from Facebook and Instagram, since with no cross-app tracking, they lose access to lots of valuable data that previously helped them target ads to the feeds of more specific and appropriate audience profiles. Therefore, the conversion rate of viewers into customers is going to be less, and businesses will know and feel this, and therefore they're going to spend less on marketing for these platforms. This, of course, isn't exclusive to Facebook and Instagram. These are just among the 2 largest social media apps out there, and obviously the subject of this video. They are under even more pressure with the success of competitors like TikTok, which have taken over the world and consumed the younger generation. Meta's share price has been absolutely crushed and is down 75% over the last year and down 75% from its all-time high, looking a little too much like a cryptocurrency. Their valuation is down over $500 billion in the last year, and earlier this year set a record for the largest single-day stock crash in market history, having been down $230 billion in one single day, larger than the GDP of New Zealand. This was due to them announcing that their user and revenue growth had begun to seriously flatten for the first time in its history. More recently, their share price had dropped 20% in one day because their earnings were struggling in the fourth quarter. And that's led them to announce plans for large-scale layoffs that's going to affect thousands of employees. It's starting to look like Facebook is no longer the high-growth business that it's proven to be over the last decade. The FANG acronym for the leading tech giants that's been used over the last 10 years has since changed, with Facebook and Netflix struggling to keep up with growth. And it's starting to look more like AAA, Amazon, Apple, and Alphabet. Around a year ago, Facebook rebranded to Meta and announced a radically different strategy involving the metaverse. And if it works out for them, they could reassert themselves into this high-growth tech league and consider it MAAA. A reason for Facebook struggling to continue growing is that they've really just captured all the users that they can. There's 2 billion people that are in countries where Facebook and other applications similar to it are banned. There's, I think, over 3 billion people that don't have access to the internet, and that leaves around 3 million people left, with, let's say, 500 million of them being too young to use the app, or for some other reason like they've quit all of social media. To summarize Meta's biggest problems, it's Apple's new privacy feature, them losing users to TikTok, the younger generation not growing up to become users of their platform, and them just running out of new users to add to the network. Also, they're a bit too ahead on the metaverse idea, and it's past its popularity even though it'll eventually come back, and the fact that we're heading into a global recession. It's looking pretty bad right now for Facebook, but they have a lot of plans in store for the future and are working on a lot of stuff right now that could pay off eventually. They have a very large share of the virtual reality market, having acquired Oculus VR in 2014 and having poured billions of dollars into their VR and metaverse projects. Their metaverse is called Meta Horizon Worlds, and it's a free-to-play virtual world, but is only accessible by purchasing their Quest headsets. They just came out with the Quest Pro headset, which is retailing for $1,500, and it's said to be much better than the previous headsets, with full face and eye tracking, and to be more lightweight and with better weight distribution. Meta is seemingly putting all their chips into the metaverse and VR, with hopes of converting their billions of users into users of their virtual worlds. It's safe to say that they are well ahead of the curve on the metaverse play, and even Mark Zuckerberg has said that he expects the tens of billions of dollars that he's invested to pay off at some point in the next 10 years. Now, in the meantime, they just have to stay afloat and hope that the world really is going to be moving towards the metaverse for everyone's daily life. Of course, they're not just going to wait around and hope for this to happen. They're going to continue to spend billions and billions on the development of this effort, and I think they have a good chance of making it work. But are they going to be the only ones successful? Probably not. Meta has deliberately made the most of the metaverse hype, and it's safe to say that they have staked their claim to the word metaverse. They're at the center of the conversation, and whenever the word metaverse is used, it's always meta. But a lot of this metaverse hype was very driven by NFTs and crypto and this new paradigm for virtual worlds, when in reality, the metaverse has existed for decades in games like Second Life, GTA, Roblox, and plenty of others. However, much of the world either doesn't like the idea of the metaverse or thinks it's too far out to even begin to care at this moment. On top of this, lots of people think of the metaverse as a joke, especially with all the billions of dollars that's been spent on these efforts that have come out with games that don't look any better than what's already out and has been made with much lower budgets. Many people have made fun of Meta and Zuckerberg for what is now a pretty funny meme involving the metaverse selfie that's in front of the Eiffel Tower and what a lot of people say looks like a me character. While I do agree it's pretty funny, it's not an accurate representation of all that they've been working on. Yes, they've spent tens of billions of dollars on the effort for the metaverse, but not all of it has gone towards just the simple world. To add insult to injury, he very quickly took down that post and responded with a better post of him with better quality graphics, and the question still stands. Why did he post that first one initially? The billions of dollars that they've committed to building their version of the metaverse has been put towards their workspaces, their Horizon worlds, hiring developers, developing headsets, and other devices like their mixed reality, which is basically augmented reality. They aren't just making worlds for people to play in, but are building the hardware that people are going to be using to have these experiences with deeper levels of immersion. If the metaverse is actually going to be the future, which I believe it is in some way or another, by offering realistic levels of immersion and by allowing people to express themselves by creating whatever it is they want to in these virtual worlds, then as long as Meta doesn't completely screw up, they have positioned themselves extremely well to dominate the space of the future of social interactions. Also, Meta's vision for the metaverse is a bit different from how most of these other early metaverse companies are envisioning it. They want to bring every activity that they possibly can that people enjoy and do daily in the real world and make it into VR. And they'll continue to spend billions to make things people typically do in real life just as good or more real in VR. Gaming, working, socializing, and consuming content are all things that we could imagine would be done virtually in these digital environments at some point. This isn't here yet, and the workspaces are pretty clunky with avatars that don't even have legs yet. Meta wants to regain control of the advertising market that they were once leading behind Google. But thanks to Apple, they're falling behind. They haven't been the ones to issue devices for people to use, but rather just been the software that's on those devices. Now, if the metaverse is truly the future, and since Meta looks like a likely winner, then if successful, they're not only going to have control over the software and the virtual worlds that they're experiencing, but also the hardware through which they're experiencing it. This means nearly complete control, and it's probably how they've always wanted it, but now they finally get a chance to do it. If we ever get to a point where our lives in these virtual worlds have any sort of importance or meaning over our physical lives, then one company controlling things could easily sound like a dystopian future. Now, there needs to be more competition in order for this not to turn into a complete corporate monopolistic dystopia. As time goes on, and with what Meta has announced they're planning on doing for the future, people are more frequently comparing the potential future to the movie Ready Player One. Meta could potentially get to a point where they're comparable to the massive corporation and antagonist of the movie IOI, where they have complete control over the virtual world and a monopoly on the tech and the labor to set up sort of the large corporation against the individual narrative. With the face and eye tracking that I already mentioned they've integrated into the Quest Pro headset, it's not a stretch to imagine a future where they could require you to look at a certain place in your vision in order to view an ad. And that kind of reminds me of this clip from Ready Player One.
We estimate we can sell up to 80% of an individual's visual field before inducing seizures.
Hopefully Apple comes out with a great headset and makes Meta really have to compete and think about what they're doing without just having complete monopolistic power where whatever they do kind of goes because they're the largest player in the game. And Apple's certainly going to make their headset tailored to their ecosystem like they've done with everything else in their products. Apple tends to play more of the slow game, and this has helped them remain a well-respected brand with a good reputation, and they control nearly 50% of the market share in the United States for smartphones. And they aren't rushing to come up with a solution for VR. They don't want to be the first, and they intentionally want to wait and make their product a great one for what they want it to be. Facebook is dying, Meta is really struggling, and the metaverse is a bit too ahead of its time. But there is a future where Meta is an extremely successful company, but there's a bunch of risks associated with that, and we'll just have to see what it looks like. A lot of people have been saying that if Meta loses, we the people win. I don't 100% agree with that. I would just like to see more competition in the space so that everyone can move forward in the right direction. That's it for this video. If you guys enjoyed the content, hit subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.